Welcome, Mac. Time for my favorite starter deck, guys. The Maclin Oakmoss starter deck. I've been playing the proto starter for this deck a lot in playtesting, and I love it. This should have even more goodies in it, so I'm excited to get these cards into my hands and start playing with them. So without further ado, let's start popping this one. This is, I love to grind with this deck. I think it's really cool. It's got a lot of cool play patterns. It's got some awesome openings. And I think Mac is just a great leader in general. So I want to build other decks with him too. But I think this, without any additions, this starter deck is just fine. So we'll pop this. Ooh, those are nice. Those are opening up real nice. Check it out. So Mac's cash card is definitely in the heart of the Blackwood Forest, where most of his syndicate activities take place. So cool. So let's get this plastic wrap off and let's check out the cards. If what's in here is, I think is in here, we're gonna have a pretty good time opening this up. Been looking forward to, I think the Valtor deck had one of the cards I was looking forward to the most was Silverlight Arcane Archer, and this one has one of the other ones. So when we get to that card, I might spend a little too much time doing what the kids call glazing it. But just know that it's only because I have waited to play with that card a little bit longer than the other one. So it's just at long last, you know. There's the cash, right? We love that. Keeps track of our face down cards for us. And let's check out the plots. Now, first thing, I think Mac has the best plots deck out of all the starter decks. So that's a huge advantage first off. I think the areas that he gets are extremely synergistic with him. And he just has a very natural time. Even when your opponent responds to the way that you're starting to put pressure on the board, you can find other ways to start putting pressure on the board because you have not only one way to put renown on an area, but multiple. Between your Mac triggers stealing and also just the range of units and stuff that you have in your deck that take advantage of these areas. I think this area has one of the worst -2s though, which is reveal the top card of a bank. It can be useful, but it's nowhere near as good as like searching for a knight and putting it into your hand. But at the start of your turn, a ranger or an elf here is gaining you 1 renown, which is really good. Like that's a very easy requirement to fulfill, and you're getting 3 victory points for doing it. So this is an area you just claim quickly. We were talking about there's areas that you might want to not claim quickly because there is upside to leaving a fight for later. This is one where you want to come out and just kind of take it and get the 3 points as fast as possible. In my opinion, it falls into that bucket. Get 2 of those. Blackwood Bandit Camp, and here's what I'm talking about. Another 3 victory card, another 3 victory points. So Mac is already flush with ways to get 3 victory points. At the end of your turn, gain 1 renown if you have a rogue here. So not bad. Mac has plenty of rogues to take advantage of this. It's doable. It's really doable on a Mac deck, especially if you tune it to have more rogues. This land just gets better and better. Reveal a card in a guild hall. If the unit is revealed, destroy it. Non-unit, sorry. So yeah, this is a great way to keep your opponent honest. The Blackwood Assailant, I think is his name. He is very good at keeping your opponent honest, and this is Blackwood Assailant on a stick here whenever you have 2 renown to pay. So this is good. I think you need to pay attention to how your opponent's maybe playing their guild hall cards to take advantage of this. Especially if they only have like 1 or 2 face down and other things are face up, the value of this might go up. But just it's up to you to discern if you want to use that, or once again, it falls into that bucket of 3 victory points. I want to come out and claim this as fast as possible. Another 3 victory point area. Gain 1 when you play a rogue or tradesman here. So this one's a little different. You're not gaining 1 every turn, but rogues and tradesmen, I think, are the 2 easiest things to play in the Mac deck. I like rangers in the Mac deck, but I think rogues and tradesmen have a lot of synergy that's hard to ignore. For each rogue you have here, look at the top X cards of your bank, put 1 of them into your crypt. So it's a good way to get cards into your crypt. And it's also a good way to get rid of an opponent's key card too. So it depends on what type of deck you're playing. You could be playing a rogue deck that wants to get stuff into your own crypt, or you could be playing a deck that wants to surveil basically the top of your opponent's deck and remove something from that. So This one's cool. 3 victory points. Like I said, he has a lot of 3 victory points. Here we go again. At the end of your turn, gain 1 if you have a rogue or tradesman here. So the rogue and tradesman theme plays out on this one as well. And you steal 1, -2 renown, steal 1 for each rogue you have here. So you can really steal some renown on this quickly. If you drop a couple rogues in there, steal 2 points off your opponent, and then trigger this as well, it can really start to move quickly in your favor. So keep this one in mind. This is a 3 victory point area, but this is one that you might leave in the bucket of better to come back to later, because you have that comeback mechanic built into the minus ability. Farmland. Gain 1 when you play a tradesman, human, or halfling here. That makes sense. The next human or halfling here you play costs 1 less if you pay 2 renown. So ramp, free ramp, pretty cool. The fact that you can play an area that's helping you, as long as you just leave some units there, some villagers there, in the Mac deck or whatever halflings or humans you have, just leave them there and accrue those renown points each turn, and then he's yeah, I mean, you could look at it multiple ways. Maybe the value of villager in the guild hall is higher. It's up to we're gonna need to play more to determine this, but this ability could come in handy when you're trying to combo. I could think like a turn with like Frank Brady. That could matter. Especially because you can play a Frank Brady for 2 mana out of your cash. So yeah, definitely consider farmland as a good way to, it's only 2 victory points, but later in the game, you can definitely combo this area with renown points you already have to make your curve that much more explosive. So that's your plots deck. We like the plots for Mac. I think it's very good for him to have areas that he is comfortable in, because his deck is so crucial to getting on the board early and capturing a few areas, and then finding a way to get the last few points to get across the finish line. Because he doesn't stay as strong late game as a well-equipped Grok deck or a Valtor deck that's starting to click on all cylinders, but the amount of disruption he can cause in the early to mid game is extremely valuable, and it can't be understated that with those areas, he has a chance to capture areas much faster than the opponent realizes. So you want to definitely use that velocity of those areas, the slippery slope that they go, oh shoot, oh, add expletive here, he's already at 7 victory points, and now he's pressuring that last one, and they didn't realize how quickly you were gaining those 7 victory points, is my point. So keep that in mind with the Mac deck. It's very good at taking over the board early, and then mid to late game, you have to start getting more crafty. So let's move on to the deck. Let's see what we got. First card, Arvindor Archer. The movability is very useful. Move to an adjacent area and become untargetable. Probably more useful than it looks, really. Especially when you remember those areas that said if a ranger or an elf are here at start or end of turn, gain renown points. This is untargetable. So this card has value late game. That's maybe not apparent on the front of the card. Arvindor Trader, backstabby guy. A 5/2/2 stat line is respectable for 5. It's not insane, but it's respectable. It has a huge health pool for a Mac deck. That's one of your biggest health pools. And it's going to deal double damage to exhausted enemies. So timing with this card is everything. When to deploy him and start backstabbing is everything. Because we don't want to lose this guy to removal. We don't want to get this guy earthquaked. That's real bad for our mana and our tempo. But if we can find a way to make his backstab really efficient, it's almost like he comes into the battlefield equipped with a scimitar or whatever you want to consider it. Excuse me, Bauble of Lore. We went over this in the Valtor deck, just as good in a Mac deck. Probably a staple 3 of in most Mac decks, to be honest. You have such a Max deck can get out so fast with the villager starts, with the burglar starts. He has a high density of 1-drops. So you end up with a lot of turns where you have you know, you're not going a 1, 2, 3, 4 ramp cycle. You're going more of like a 1, 2, 5, 6, 8. You know, you're hitting these kind of odd intervals at different times, and you don't really have a you don't have like a Hearthstone like curve where it's like progressively just adding 1 mana crystal per turn. You get these kind of jagged explosive mana starts where this card is huge. This 1 mana filling your curve, and then 1 mana to draw a card filling your curve. I love it. I love Bob Lore. I love the simplicity of the card. I love the fact that it's an egg, but it's not like in a game where there's a ton of eggs and it's a problem. It's just good. It's just a good card. Blackwood Infiltrator. This is the card I was talking about. I said Assailant. The stat line's okay, 2/2/1, but the ability is great. This reminds me of like a Goblin Rune Blaster type effect, where it's like coming in and blowing up, you know, your opponent's like land that they really didn't want you to try to like, they didn't want you to notice that it was an upside down support card, basically. It's really fun. Especially when your opponent knows that you played this card and you're going to select the right one, and they're already putting it into the crypt when you're like telling them which card you select. That's really funny. So definitely keep this guy around. I mean, the rogue is good. The fact that he steals influence in the Mac deck is really good. And then like just like destroying a land, basically, you know, destroying your opponent's ability to put cards on the field is really good. And he's really good against Valtor. Blackwood Ranger, like, positioning matters, right? This card, depending on which area it is in, if it's on a corner area, you limit half its ability. And what I mean by corner area is when you have the 5 areas out on the battlefield, if you deploy this card on one of the 2 areas on the far left or far right, you're restricting the fact that it can only shoot inward. But this card is a deployment, and its positioning matters. Like, in an area in the middle of the battlefield, it can cover 3 areas. And it can also pressure, it can put Renown on one area and then pressure an area that has a fight going on. So this card has a lot of cool play patterns. I've liked playing with this card a lot. When you deploy it, you never feel like it's stuck in one area because it's always able to cover the 2 areas next to it. So I like this card a lot. Blackwood Scout. Good card. Precision in the Mac deck is good. Especially if you throw a short bow on this guy, get Alacrity, and get that first strike damage. This is cool. He's a good stat line, and he's really good against Grok. Like, my bad, Valtor. These 2 blue defense stat lines here are some of your most valuable cards against Valtor. So not only does Valtor have to think twice about using removal on them, he'll even consider using bigger removal spells like an Earthquake or something like that to get rid of these cards in a chunk, because that blue defense is so pesky. Blackwood Shadow. This card is very strong. It can be removed. I've realized that the Valtor deck does have ways to kind of AoE this off the field. It can be interacted with. There are ways to kind of get around that stealth, but it is tricky. Especially when you go into the areas that are constantly getting Renown every turn for just having a rogue deployed there, and you're never exhausting it, and you're just riding that stealth. It's tricky. So keep this card around, save it for when you need to kind of split. I kind of consider it like a way to split the offense, where this card can go and solo pressure an area and make the opponent deploy some resources there, and then you can kind of decide where you want to go from there. So good card. 2 of, I think, is right. That seems like the right number. Burglar. He's a burglar. Burglar is good. The fact that it's a 1 mana rogue is good. Getting these explosive 1-drops, like I call them explosive because they get face up in your guild hall so quickly. Getting these cards in your guild hall face up quickly is very strong. They get you early Renown early, and like just the fact that it's a 1-drop that is like triggering the rogues like claws on Mac is just good. Like, this is the cheapest, fastest way to steal a Renown. It steals a Renown late game, even though the card doesn't do much at that point because it's a 1 mana 1/1/0. But like, if you can get an explosive start where this comes out early, gets back into your guild hall, it's face up, it's generating 2 mana for you for turn. Like, this is a very fun card, and I think it's better than it looks. I don't know. I might run most of my Mac decks with more tradesmen than this. I don't know if he's better than just running 3 Carpenters, 3 Essence Miners, 3 Villagers, but if you do want more, you have up to 12 copies of a 1-drop so far. And that ability to steal renown cannot be slept on. Chainmail. I like Chainmail. It's good. It's basic. It covers the Mac deck. It's going to give you a way better chance of actually sticking unit against Grok, because that +2 red actually makes them think about what they got to do. And then it can be used against Valtor too, in the right situations. He does have a few units that have red, so it has a corner case against Valtor, but most of the time it's really good against Grok, and you definitely want to save it. Probably want to put it face down against Valtor. And against Mac, I'm not sure if it makes a huge difference against Mac. It does help against, I mean, it shuts off burglars, it shuts off all the small stuff, so maybe. And the fact that it can be equipped by all classes, it's always going to be useful in that sense. Got the Bargain Hunter. This card is one of the ones that survived from really early on in playtesting. This is a, if you're going to draw IM2 effect, this is like, he's there to counter Bauble of Lore, really. Because anytime, Bauble of Lore is triggering, it's out of step. So this is this is your Bauble of Lore counter so far in the game. And I mean, look what he's got. He's buying baubles. He knows what he's doing. Maybe he's repossessing baubles and then selling them. You'd hate to see it. This card's good. Clearwood Scout. Traveler is a good ability. The stat line's not great. 2/1/1's not amazing, but the ability is good. Once per turn, move to an area without exhausting. You can really do some shenanigans with this card. You can really do some shenanigans, and it's good. It's a Halfling Ranger. It's gonna do okay in a Mac deck, I think. But the Traveler ability is very flexible late game and mid game. Maybe even early game. I don't even know. I haven't played it enough yet. Every time I play it, Fingal usually kills it almost instantly, so it must be good. Dagger. All classes can equip this. I'm split on Dagger. 2 for +1. The crit's okay. It's okay. I wish I liked Dagger more. I feel like the other items just have so much more upside. But there has to be an item that's equipable by all classes. And by all classes, Mac is Tradesmen. Yeah, Tradesmen really have no items they can equip. So yeah, I can see it. Okay, so Dagger fits into a Mac deck better than, half your Tradesmen not being able to equip anything. But I wish Dagger was just a little bit better. But can't complain too much. So here is the MVP. Here's Rap's MVP. Right here. The Rogue Tradesman. Hero Veil Envoy. I dig for this card when I'm playing more than any other card. This is the mid to late game easy button. This is the mid to late game. How the heck am I going to make sense of the phone booth? Like I call the late game the phone booth. Early on in the game, there's 5 areas, and this type of card effect doesn't make a huge difference because your opponent either decided he's going to allow you to claim up to a certain amount of victory points before he gets serious about stopping you, or he's more interested in claiming something else while you're claiming something you're interested in. So the early game does not really create the phone booth effect. The phone booth effect is more when we've run out of other areas to play on, and now your smaller units are starting to have to equal up. Now the Traveler ability and these other speed abilities that help you move around, these movement abilities are starting to water down as there's more and more beef being added to the battlefield. This is how you win the game. This is how you do it. If you have 7 victory points, you can move your villagers up from the guild hall. You can move your Clearwood Bargain Hunter up from the guild hall. You protect them in the guild hall. You move them up. You deploy this guy. If an area is able to be claimed, you may do that, and you ignore for each other rogue there. Okay, so he switched to rogue now. So you're going to want your burglars there. You're going to want your Blackwood Shadows there, all that stuff. So it's either way in this deck, you're going to make use of the tradesman giving you ramp to get to this guy. And then your rogues are going to help you close out the game by stealing influence. This guy's going to also count as a tradesman, which is cool. He's going to trigger twice with Mac, now that I'm looking at it. So I'm glad I read that more carefully. He's triggering the rogues in the area, but he's also a rogue and a tradesman. That's really cool. So yeah, the stat line, not amazing, right? You're getting a 4/1/1 for 4. It's not going to affect the board, but you're trying to win the game with this deploy effect. This is the MVP of the deck. He gets to sit on a separate pile. Hide Armor. One of your best answers against Valtor. This is going to make, this and Leather Armor, fairly, are both going to make your units matter much more against Valtor. And Rogues are going to get that nice +1 finesse defense from it as well. On Leather Armor. So your Hide Armor is your beefy Valtor resistance, and you got a light Valtor resistance that also has a little bit of upside against other matchups. So a little bit of a split there. And I'm probably, if you're going up against Valtor, I don't know if Leather Armor is super great. That +1 can just probably be overpowered by most of the stuff that casts. But still, I think once you get to the +2 range, it's worth considering. And definitely keeps your best unit alive. Putting that on like one of those marksmen or the precision rangers, probably a good decision. Lightfoot Bandit, just a simple 2/1/1. I love when they have the green gems on the dark background. Just looks really cool. Makes the card stand out compared to others. Yeah, this is a good little halfling, and this is gonna be great with Envoy too. This, I should have thought of this when I thought about Envoy. This should be a 3 of, you know, if you really think about it. We want 3 burglars, we want 3 Lightfoots. We want all the rogues now because we're stealing that influence, and then we're chaining into an Envoy. I mean, if you think about with Frank Brady now, oof, we got Mayor Frank Brady that comes in, gives you 2 cash. We got Heroville Envoy, we got Lightfoot Bandits, we got burglars. Like it's starting to look better. This definitely is tuned up. I'll give it that. It's looking a little tuned up compared to the first iteration. You got a tune up. Longbow. So this is a precision +3 crit. It's got a tight crit range, which is not the best, but I mean, man, crit plus precision, we love that. We love rolling twice. This rolls twice, so anytime you get 2 rolls, I mean, that's better than 1. So technically, I guess if you, yeah, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at statistics like that, but you know it's better than rolling once. So definitely want to roll twice every time you attack, and this guy is doing it. And then on top of that, I mean, +3 green is very efficient. It's gonna hurt a lot of stuff. I don't know how many things besides like uniques have 3 green resistance. So this is just one of the best, most efficient cards in the game, in my opinion. I love the art. I love the fact that in the Mac deck, he draws you a card and then looks 1 card deeper into the bank. I love that. And I think this is just like an easy 2/3 of in most decks. You're going to get it on the board early. You don't care if it gets removed because it draws you a card when it comes into play. It thins your deck, right? You're playing this ranger that's efficient enough. It doesn't have any defense, which would be nice, but it's efficient enough that it's basically thinning your deck for you, in my opinion. So definitely play at least 2 of these guys, maybe 3 in all decks that want to just get through it quickly. In a combo deck, I mean, he's, you know, that's what he's going as a 3 of in the Mac deck that I'm building because it's more of a combo deck, and he's 2 mana draw card. We love that. We love that rate. And then we get a body for it. We get a 2/1 body with with an adorable fox friend. Sign me up. Sign me up. Here's what I'm talking about. So now, the difference between Mayor Frank Brady being a tradesman and Envoy being a rogue, technically, because his ability is triggering off rogues, this is kind of helping separate them a little bit. And it's definitely boosting Mayor Frank Brady, because I think the problem before with Envoy triggering on tradesmen was that tradesmen are just so not good at establishing the board. You almost always want your tradesmen to get their deploy effect and then move back to the guild hall. In theory, right? I mean, you can win the game with like a Frank Brady probably doesn't belong in the guild hall because he has diligence, right? But unless you have that aggressive stat line like he does, he gets away with it because he's unique. you wouldn't get away with these 2 effects and this stat line as a tradesman. So I think switching to rogues just makes it a little bit more deadly, and Mayor Frank Brady stands out as a little bit more of an enabler now, which I really like. So it's cool. I'm going to play this deck a lot, and I think that distinction between this being a tradesman and Envoy triggering on rogues just helps the deck have a little bit more identity between the two. And Diligence is really good. I don't know how many cards have Diligence, maybe a few. I think like a Syndicate card does, and then I don't know, that's about it. So Diligence is very good at pressuring the board quickly, and I need to play the deploy effect better, because it's like you think you're about to take full advantage of the deploy effect and the game just like speeds up on you a little bit. So start preparing for Mayor Frank Brady early, because when his face shows up, you're going to wish your cash had shit in it. Pardon my language. Midnight Watchman, the 2/2/0 stat line, so he's like the green brawler, right? But he's a ranger, halfling, cool. Cool art. Scary, kind of, really. He's a brave dude. Walking out there with a, like, you know, who knows? Who knows what's paroling those woods out there? Pony Shoer, little play on, you know, Horseshoer, right? He's good. He's an easy tradesman. He gets on the field quickly, and he's got a good stat line against Grok early. He's a young knight, right? This is the tradesman young knight. He's going to show the young knight. I mean, they push all day. He can square off with the young knight all day. Kind of cool. Skimmy. The Skimmy. We've talked about Skimmy a lot. Versatile, good damage type, good crit range. We like Scimitar. Short Sword we've talked about a lot. Good rate, less good damage type, a lot of classes. We like Short Sword. We like Short Sword strictly better than Dagger. We know Dagger has some use, but man, Short Sword is just such a better deal. Short Bow, Alacrity. Deal damage first. This is your first strike option, right? Oh, cool. We have 2 of them. That's awesome. Short bows are very, very good. I think this is like a key glue card to Mac keeping that tempo advantage that I'm talking about in the early turns. He's so good at getting out to an explosive tempo early and making your opponent kind of assess not where they can stop you now, but where they plan on trying to stop you in a few turns, because he gets out so early, so fast, that it's not always easy to stop it all at once. Yeah, you're only getting +1 damage for 2. We've talked about that's not the best rate, but the first strike, green damage with first strike, huge. Huge, huge, huge implications for keeping the tempo on the board. I like Short Bow a lot. I think these 3 items right here are just so much better than Dagger. No offense, Dagger. We're going to be putting Dagger face down, hoping it doesn't get blown up. Undercity Ambusher, charge. So this is like, you know, this is your deal on wheels here. This is a little bit different stat line than the Boglin's Hijacker. A little easier to pick off with non-green damage, but also has to respect, your opponent has to respect this for its green defense too. So it's not quite as easy of a sell as Boglin's Hijacker, where any 2 damage is going to remove him, but also just very pickable with that 1 HP. The value of this card, I think, comes in with being able to drop it, trigger the rogue ability in 1 turn, and have a unit that can pick up a short bow or can pick up a short sword and start getting a crit roll and getting that damage applied instantly instead of having to wait a turn and letting your opponent adjust. Villager, definitely the 1-drop MVP, right? The speed that this is going to give the deck, the fact that it has this and Burglar, but the fact that this comes out and gives you the discard draw trigger on Mac. This is, every time your hand starts with a Villager, you're ramping and your hand is bigger than the starting hand actually looks, right? Because you're going to get to discard your worst card and you're going to get to draw a new one. So I love Villager. as a card in general. I'm going to play a ton of tradesmen. I think that's one of my favorite classes. I think tradesmen are like ramp plus like utility, which is just my favorite types of decks. And he's just going to be a staple, right? Like Carpenter's going to be a staple. Villager's going to be a staple. Essence Finder's going to be a staple. So get like this, the fact that it has 3 of them, take advantage of that, because that is a great deal that these starter decks come with 3 of these. So if you buy the Grok deck, you buy this one, you have 2 play sets already of Villager and Carpenter. And then when you combine the decks, I mean, you can put Carpenter straight into your Mac deck, right? Because he's a tradesman. So we love it. We love Villager. We're going to play him a lot. So thankful it's a 3 of. Definitely take advantage of that in all the starter packs. Whoa. We were doing so good. I didn't drop a single card for over an hour and a half. And then I go and do that. Hearthglen Scavenger. Cool. This is a new addition. This definitely spices up the deck a little bit. Return a support card from your crypt to your hand. Eternal Witness. Kinda. I love it. That's I mean, the deck has been yearning for something like this. It really has. So this is good. Definitely getting a support card back, because I mean, there's support cards that you wish you had back. Sometimes the trade doesn't go the way you wish. So getting this back is huge. Point Blank Shot. All right. The art on this one's fantastic. Unit gains +1 finesse damage. If attacking or blocking unit with charge, it's +2, and you're getting Alacrity, right? 0 mana cost. So this is a very cheap buff. It's like the strong strike of green, but it's better. I think it's just strictly better. It gives you that the attacking blocking bonus against charge. So I really like this card. Really like the Mac starter deck, guys. I think if you love, let's just look at Mac real quick. Like when you deploy a Ranger, you look at the top card of your bank. Super useful to see if you want to play a tradesman afterwards. Super useful to start, like I'm saying with Mac, every hand is bigger than it looks, because you have tradesmen, you have Rangers that are looking deeper into the deck. You have a lot of information about the top 9 to 10 cards of your deck, I'd say, every time you start the game. Whenever you deploy a Rogue, you may steal Renown from the area. So that's tempo. Like this card just helps you keep tempo. Your opponent has a hard time getting on the board early in the game, because you can come out with rogues and you can just steal their hard work. So I love it. And then the best ability on the card, I think, maybe the rogue ability is better, but whenever you play a tradesman, so this is guild hall included, you may discard and draw. So your tradesmen say, dig 1 card deeper into your deck, you know, like get rid of your worst card and dig 1 card deeper. So I really like it. I think Mac with 15 health is really like unique. I think that's a great, just like mid-weight health point that's not easy to remove. It doesn't get critted out too easily, right? We've talked about 20 damage coming across before, but it's not going to get critted out too easily. So anyways, that's the Mac deck. That's my favorite, guys. If you want to play the Mac deck, hit us up. We have plenty of Mac decks for sale. We have Grok decks for sale. We have Valtor decks for sale. In my opinion, the Mac deck is the most fun to play, but it also takes, it probably has the most nuance to it. I think the Valtor deck has the strongest deck list overall. So the Valtor deck is going to be like your heaviest hitter. In my opinion, it has a lot of good rares. The vanilla cards are good. And I think probably the best like mid, Goldilocks bang for your buck is probably the Grok deck. I don't think the Mac deck has quite Grok or Valtor's level of power, but it's definitely very crafty compared to the other two. So if that's something you guys are interested in, hit us up on the Discord. I'm Rune Two-Hander in there. If you guys want to talk to me, ask me any questions, let me know. We're really just like in the early distribution phase of this game, where we don't want to like give it away to anyone that's not really that interested. If you guys are wanting to be part of the community, we'd love to give it away. Like that's the goal. We want to start promoting the game a little bit, having some events, giving away some promo packs, and then just looking for the initial player base to grow. So yeah, if you guys are interested in playing with us, let us know. We'll probably come down to the Jumping Frog or a local gaming store near you guys and be available for selling starter decks and all that stuff. So anyways, I've talked enough for now. I'm going to upload these videos, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, and check us out. It's a fun game.